In today's video, we will explore cell types and cell structures. Alright, let's kick things off by understanding what cells really are. Think of them as these super tiny building blocks that, when grouped together, form something much larger, like the bricks in a building. Now, living beings can be divided into multicellular and unicellular organisms. Plants and animals fall into the multicellular category because they consist of loads of cells working together. On the other hand, bacteria are unicellular, meaning they're made up of a single cell. Think of it as one cell running the show, like a solo performer. Moving on to the structure of animal and plant cells, both fall under the category of eukaryotic cells. We'll take a closer look at an animal cell and a plant cell side by side, pointing out what makes them similar and what sets them apart. After that, we'll shift our focus to bacterial cells. Now, to really understand a cell, we need to peek inside and explore its different parts. These are called organelles, essentially tiny structures that keep the cell running smoothly. Firstly, both animal and plant cells are surrounded by a cell membrane. It acts like a gatekeeper, deciding what goes in and out of the cell. Picture it as the bouncer of the cell, allowing some chemicals to enter while keeping others out. Both cell types also house a nucleus, which is like the control center. It contains the DNA, the genetic material that directs all the activities of the cell. They both have this gel-like substance called cytoplasm, where the organelles hang out and where most of the cell's chemical reactions happen. Now, they also both have a bunch of mitochondria. These little guys are powerhouses, providing the energy cells need to function. We'll get into the nitty-gritty of how they do this in another lesson. It involves breaking down sugars in a process called aerobic respiration. And don't forget about ribosomes. Both cell types have a ton of them. These are like the cell's chefs, cooking up proteins. But plant cells come with some extras. First off, they've got a tough cell wall made of cellulose, giving the cell structure and support. Imagine it like the cell's armor. Then there's this massive storage space called a permanent vacuole, holding a mix of sugars, salts, and water that the cell taps into when needed. Lastly, plant cells also have chloroplasts. These are essential for photosynthesis, a process where plants use sunlight to create sugars like glucose, their food. Don't worry about this, we will look at it in another video. Inside these chloroplasts, you'll find a green substance called chlorophyll, soaking up the light energy needed for photosynthesis. Now, let's shift gears and talk about bacterial cells. Unlike the cells we've looked at earlier, bacteria are prokaryotes, which means they're unicellular. They have a cell wall, cell membrane, ribosomes, and cytoplasm, just like our eukaryotic cells. However, they do things a bit differently. Bacteria don't have mitochondria or chloroplasts. Instead of a nucleus, they have a circular strand of DNA, often called a circular chromosome. Some bacteria even have extra rings of DNA called plasmids, carrying useful genes like antibiotic resistance. And here's a cool feature. Some bacteria have flagella, these tail-like structures that allow them to move around. It's like their built-in mode of transportation. Now, I want you all to try some questions to test your understanding about the video. Please feel free to pause the video and try them by yourself before we go through the answers. Give two differences in structure between animal and plant cells. Plant cells harbor a vacuole and chloroplasts. Define the function of chloroplasts. Chloroplasts are responsible for photosynthesis. The vacuole. The vacuole contains cell sap and gives additional structure to the cell. Name the parts of the cell labelled X and Y. The part labelled X is the cell membrane. The part labelled Y is the cytoplasm. Add an arrow to the diagram to show where the cellulose would be found within the cell. The arrow should be pointing at the outer ring of the diagram, pointing at the cell wall. That's everything for this video. I hope that was helpful to you. If you want to learn more about GCSE sciences, click on our channel and you will find more helpful videos. If you found this video helpful, don't forget to like and subscribe. See you next time.